Welcome everyone on this technical webinar on implementing Power BI embedded analytics for better business decisions. I'm Tunga, Marketing Manager at ITTStar Consulting. Let me take a minute to introduce our company on how we intend to help organizations globally. We are a customer-centric enterprise delivering secure, reliable, and data-driven digital transformation for over a decade now. We are specialized in digitalization of business assets using data engineering and data analytics. Founded in 2011, we have helped global organizations in their digital transformation journey. We operate from Alpharetta, Georgia in the US, having multiple branches across 5+ countries. Our unique approach facilitates solving complex problems by helping businesses build cloud-native data platforms, enabling capabilities that drive innovative solutions. Our main 4 practice areas includes data analytics, enterprise application development, cloud managed services, and automation. Today, we have Garima on the panel, who is a business analytics lead at ITTStar, having tremendous experience in business analytics solution with a strong adherence to Power BI and Azure Cloud Platform. For the next 45 minutes, she'll walk you through the step-by-step procedure to implement Power BI embedded analytics to your applications. Along the way, if you get any sort of questions or queries, the chat window will be open after 30 minutes. Please feel free to enter your questions in the chat window. At the end of this webinar, for the 15 minutes, we will have a Q&A session where Garima and our data analytics practice director, Mr. Sundar Kumar, and our full stack developer, Soumya Ranjan, will be happy to answer all these questions. In case if we cannot answer all the questions today, we will definitely send answers straight to your inbox. This is going to be an interactive and amazing session. I hope you all will enjoy. So without wasting much time, let me invite our featured presenter, Garima Srivatsava. Over to you, Garima.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. In this webinar, I will walk you through Power BI Embedded Analytics implementation. And let's get straight to the agenda first. We'll be seeing what is this Power BI Embedded Analytics. Then we'll see types of Power BI Embedded Analytics. Then we'll see the benefits or advantages of using these analytics. Then we'll see step-by-step process of implementing it. Then we'll see the process flow, how to connect Power BI REST APIs and the web app integration. Then we'll see how to implement Power BI console, and we'll implement secure authentication using Azure AD. Then we'll see the demo portion, and lastly, we'll see the Q&A round, where we'll try to answer all of your questions. So let's start with the overview. So what is this embedded Power BI analytics? It lets you embed your Power BI reports or dashboard to any of your application or web portals. So what I mean by this is embedding your existing reports or dashboard to a particular application or any web portal, right? And there is another way of doing it is using Power BI authoring console, where you can not just edit an existing report or dashboard, you can even create a new report and save it in your workspace as well. So this is actually embedding analytics. And next is different types of Power BI analytics. So it offers 2 different types. One is embedding for your customers, and second one is embedding for your organization. So embedding for your customer solution allows you to build an app that basically uses non-interactive authentication against Power BI. What I mean by that is if you're implementing for your customer, those customers are external user, right? They don't have any Power BI credential to log into their Power BI service and view the report or view the dashboard or report, right? So when you embed your Power BI content, or content means like reports, dashboard, data set, to any of the application or any of the web portal, your end user will be able to access those Power BI content using app owns data. So this is what we implemented here, and we'll discuss more about it in the later section. And let's see what is this embedding for your organization solution. So this solution actually allows you to build an app which actually needs a Power BI sign-in credential. So this is for your organization. So each individual in your organization should have a Power BI credential to view the report or dashboard or work on it based on the access to the Power BI service, right? So let's go to the next slide, which is the advantages of having this embedding analytics. So first is it actually provides you real-time data-driven insights to your customers or partners within their workflow, right? Uh, Next is it gives you total controls of visual in authoring mode, where you can go and choose your own way of presenting your data to your customer and partners in their own workflow. Next is it's easy to use and maintain because Power BI provides you a lot of different APIs and SDK, which makes easy to automate your process and minimize the time. Next is it reduces your developer resources because it provides, automating monitoring, management, and deployment process. Next is there's no end user licensing required for ISV scenario. So if you are embedding it for your customer, your end user external users or customer don't have to have a Power BI license for it. So these are the advantages of having a Power BI embedding analytics. Now let's see what are the process involved to implement this analytics. So first is we have to do some configuration in your Azure portal. So we have to configure the Azure AD, which is Azure Active Directory, and we have to do some configuration in your Power BI service as well. Next step is embedding your Power BI content into your web app. Uh, the application which you created or the web portal you created, and you want to embed your reports or dashboard to particular app. So that will be the second step to implement this. Next, we'll see the process flow, how to basically integrate your Power BI REST API with your web app, right? So to access the resources or to access the Power BI content from the Power BI services, you need to have two different things if you are embedding for your customers, right? So first thing, you need to have Azure AD token to authenticate your Azure AD application against this Power BI REST API. Secondly, we need to have an embed token to get access to this Power BI content. So let's start with the process. So if someone is logging as a web app user to your web app, right? So the first process will be it will just go to the web app which you created, and to authenticate that you can have your own authentication method, or you can have Azure B2C. We have implemented that Azure AD B2C admin. We'll talk about that later. Or you can have your own authentication method as well to enter into the web app. Once you enter your web app, you need to have manage identity to access your Power BI REST API, which you can do two ways, either using service principal or using master user account. So here in this case, what we have implemented, we are using master user account, which has a pro license for Power BI. So master user can have two different accounts, either Power BI Pro license or Power BI Premium license. And if you are implementing service principal, you don't need to have any Power BI Pro license or Premium license for that. So once we have these master user or service principal, we get an Azure AD token from Azure AD, which we implemented in your Azure. Once we get this token, then then your app should be able to access Power BI REST API, right? Once you get access to those API, it will generate an embed token, which will be used to access those Power BI contents. So why I'm telling all such things? Because your external user or your customer does not have any Power BI credential to access Power BI contents or reports or dashboard, right? So how uh, he will access those details, how he will access those contents through an web app. So for that, this web app needs to generate an embed token, and that embed token will have report ID and dataset ID, which this master user will have in their account, in their workspace ID. So here, master user is one of my teammates. So we are using her account as a master user. She has a pro license, right? So all the external user or all the customer will be authenticate through that master user account to get this access token, right? And embedding token is needed for this particular solution because uh, because external user doesn't have any workspace in Power BI service because they don't have any account, right? So what kind of reports or dashboard you are embedding in a web app, that particular uh, content or report ID or dataset, we will have to provide in the form of embedded token. So we'll see that later, how we implemented this use case. Let's go to the next slide. So first step is to configure the Azure AD. So first of all, we have to log into your Azure AD account, and we have to create a tenant. Tenant actually represents your organization. Once you sign up with this cloud service, you will get a tenant ID. I'll show you in the demo part. And then we have to register an Azure AD application there. And under that application, we have to grant some permission to access Power BI REST APIs. Next thing, we have to create a workspace and publish our Power BI reports or dashboard to this particular workspace. You can use your existing workspace or you can create a new workspace. Next is we have to get some embedding parameters. Once you register your Azure AD application, I'll show you what are those embedding parameters and how to use those parameters. So these are the first step we have to perform to implement this. Second part is embedding your Power BI contents. Contents are like reports and dashboard to your web app. For that, we need to have two virtual machines, or you can say front-end server and back-end server. So we have created these server in Azure. And then we have to point this virtual machine IP in DNS zone. For that, we have created one DNS zone also in Azure. Next is we have to pass all the required embedding parameters in the code and in the backend server code. Next, once we run the backend server, we will get one authentication access token, which we would need to embed in our front-end server to get access to those Power BI, and you will be able to see those dashboard in your web app. Now let's go to the demo section. I'll get back to this particular screenshot later. So let's see, first of all, okay, I have to go to this. So first of all, we have to configure Azure AD application. For that, we have to create a tenant. So you can see here, this is the tenant ID we have created, and this is our organization name. Once you have your tenant ID ready, you can create an app. You can register an app using this new registration method, and you can see all the apps what we created here. Let me show you the app which we have for Power BI embedding. So this is the app, and the embedding parameters which I told you. So these are the embedding parameters which we will need to uh, use in our backend server so that it will generate an authentication for Power BI REST APIs, right? So these are the client ID you can see here. These are the object ID, this is the tenant ID. And once we go to this certification and secret, you will see one secret key here that will be using in service principal, not here. And next is the API permission. So we need to have, we need to grant some permission for admin account. So you can see here, these all the permission for Power BI. So like you see, these are the APIs, capacity.read and dashboard.read, all the permission we would need to access those Power BI REST APIs. So once we configure this, we need, let me show you the virtual machine, what we created. Okay, we'll come here later. So I'll show you this Power BI service. So this is my Power BI service account where you can see here number of workspaces we created. And here, this is the workspace where you keep all of your reports and dashboards and data sets, right? So these will be used to save your reports or, create your new reports. That's the workspace. And let's go back to this virtual machines. So we have created front-end server using this Power BI virtual machine. This is the front-end server and this is the back-end server. And we pointed these servers to the DNS zone. Now let's go back to the server code. Okay, so we need to pass these embedding parameters in backend server, and you can see we mock up some of the credential here. We cannot show that, so that's what I got the screenshot. So you can see here all the embedding parameters we have to pass to this backend server code, and as we run this code, we would get one authentication API. You can see this is the API through which we are getting all these tokens, which we'll be using here. The next slide. Here in this front-end server code. So this is the API we'll be calling to get the authentication access code. And one more thing we need to do, we need to call this REST API to get the embed token for your existing dashboard. So there are two things we are implementing here. First one is embedding our existing dashboard or existing report. And second one we are implementing is embedding a console, Power BI console itself, where you can go and create your new report and you can edit old report as well. So in this particular scenario, what I'm showing is we are using this existing report where workspace ID is this one, group ID or workspace ID are same. So here we'll be providing workspace ID where you have kept your report, which you are going to embed to your application, right? And report ID is your report ID, whatever you created, it gives you an ID as well. So these two parameters we will need to get the embed token. So you can see here this embed URL. So this is the embed token we'll be using in our front end code to get access to this particular report. Client or customer doesn't have any credential, that's why we need to have this embed token. If you are embedding it for your organization, you don't have to get this embed token because member or employee who are accessing this embedded content, they already have the credential, they already have the workspace, right? So this is for embedding dashboard. And let me show you what is meant by this. So this is the web portal, you can see, and these are the 4 dashboard what we created, what we embedded actually. So let me open this. This is the report. These are the embedded reports, and this is the Power BI console. Okay, so let me go back first and show you for Power BI authoring what exactly we needed. Okay, so for embedding authentication access token in the front-end server, this is the API we'll be calling to get the authentication access token, and here we'll be getting different embed URL. So this is for Power BI authoring. So you can see here, basically what we are doing in Power BI authoring, we are going to create a new report, right? And for that, we need to have some data set, right? How will you create a report without a data set? So we'll need to provide data set ID from your workspace. So we are using a master user account, right? So from there, we can choose a particular data set ID or particular workspace where you have your dataset ID, and you can provide that dataset ID as a embedding parameter. And from that workspace ID, you can see here, we are calling this particular REST API by providing this workspace ID, and it will give you both the whatever data set you have in this particular workspace ID. So we have only two data set, you can see here. This is the US sales analysis, and this is the adventure work sales. So these two data set we have in this particular workspace, and it provides you create report embed URL. So if you're embedding for Power BI authoring, you will be using this embed token, which is create report embed URL. You will not use the same embed token which we were using earlier, right? Because this token you see here, this is just embed URL. This is just for embedding your existing report, right? And but once you have your report ready, you wanted to create a new report. For that, you need to have this particular embed token, which is create report embed URL. And how will you get that? You have to pass you have to call this particular REST API, and you have to pass this workspace ID to get this particular uh, URL or embed token. And we will pass this token here. You can see here, and you will be able to get the data set. Okay, let me go back to this portal and let me log in through this. It's loading. Yeah, so now you can see it, this embedding provides you basically a console where you can see there are two different modes, right? One is edit mode, one is create mode. Edit mode will give you an existing report where you can make changes in the report. And create mode, so we are in the create mode where you can see dataset ID. So what are these dataset? How we'll get this dataset to create a report? That dataset we'll have to provide here. You can see this is the dataset ID, right? So based on the dataset, whatever you will need to create your own report, we'll have to provide that dataset ID here in the front end code, and you'll have to provide this create embed URL. Where you are getting an embed token for your workspace. So here you can see you can create your visualization. Let's pick product categories. The sale. You can see here. And you can even apply filters as well. You can apply even slicer as well. Based on the region, you can apply a slicer and you can slice down your report. Everything you can do here, ask a question. So it actually gives you proper console, proper authoring console where you can create your report and you save your report. You can see, you go here, it will ask you to save your report. And suppose we can save this. Webinar, Power BI, embedding, save, and let me go back here, refresh this page. You can see this report here, right? So it will be saved in your workspace, whatever workspace ID you have provided in your front-end code, right? So that's the thing. Next is how we implemented the secure authentication for this authoring. So we implemented this authentication using Azure AD B2C. Excuse me. So how your website will interact with this Azure AD B2C directory? First, we'll access this B2C sign-in page using your Azure AD or social IDP. Then it will redirect you to the Azure AD or social identity provider for authentication. So next, once it will be authenticated, it will generate an OpenID security token that will be using it will redirect to Azure AD B2C directory. Then it again creates OpenID security token to your app through which you can access your Power BI content or whatever reports or dashboard you have in your app, right? Next. So let me show you this here. First of all, to create this authentication using Azure B2C admin, we have to create an Azure B2C admin account. So I have already created that account. I'm going to switch to that account from my normal ITTStar account. So this is the B2C admin account. So once you log in, first of all, you will create this account and then you'll have to log in to your B2C admin account, not your regular account. Once you have this, you have to create a tenant here and you have to register an application. To do that, we'll go to this application and I'll show you what application we created here. And you have to add your URL and redirect URI for which you want to have this secure authentication, right? So for this particular URL, we need to have this authentication. So we need to put this here. And next thing is to create an identity provider. So you can see here, we are using this Facebook account, LinkedIn account, and local account. So for each of these managed identity provider, we need to create an developer app. So for Facebook, we need to create a separate developer app in Facebook account that will provide you client ID and client secret that you will be using here to create this identity provider. We have already implemented it. So you can see here, we are authenticating using Facebook, Google, and your LinkedIn account. And we have implemented one more local account as well. Using any of your email, it will provide a secure authentication. Next is, once you're done with this, you need to create a user flow for this. So you see this is the user flow. These are the identity provider, which we had. And these are the attributes, whatever attributes you want to have in your sign up page. So when you are doing it for your local account, you can even sign in through any of your email ID, right? And you have to create a sign up page for that, and that sign up page will capture all of your information, username and password, all those details, and it will store in the user pool, and then it will let you sign in based on the validation. So these are the things we do here in Azure AD, Azure B2C admin account. Now let's go back. You can see here, this is Power BI authoring console, where we can log in through any of these social account. These are the slides, and these are the account I already showed you. Let's go back. Yeah. So these are the thing I already showed you in the presentation. These are the embedded reports, and this is the console where you can create and edit your report and create your new report and save those into your workspaces. You can see all of those workspaces here. And this is the access token. And these are the accounts which you need in Azure AD. One is your regular account and one is your admin B2C account. So yeah, I think we are done. Let's go to the question answer round. And let's get back to Thunga. Hey, Thunga.
Thanks, Garima. That was a great presentation. We have questions in the chat window.
Okay.
So let's move to the Q&A session.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Sundar.
Thank you, Thunga and Garima, for that wonderful presentation and demo. And hope the guests and participants enjoyed the session. Hope we made this time worthwhile for you. So we'll get to the questions very quickly as they come in. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible. The window is open. I don't see any questions yet. Okay, one of the questions I see is the first question. The difference between the Power BI embedding through iframe and backend server API. So I would like to Soumya to answer this question. He's a full stack developer from ITT. Soumya, would you like to take that question? Difference between the Power BI embedding through iframe and backend server API.
Yes. So basically, embedding the Power BI through iframe and backend server API will be embedding the same Power BI in the website, but the both ways can be used in Power BI dashboard to embed. But in iframe, it's not a secure way where somebody can go to the console developer and he can access the access keys. But in the case of backend Power BI API, the access keys cannot be taken out, and that access keys will be in the backend server where we can give the API URL to fetch the token and we can embed the dashboard. So that's why you are telling that we can embedding the Power BI in the dashboard through backend API server will be more useful and more secure one.
Okay, thank you. And another question for you, Soumya. What are the permissions required for Power BI authoring console mode while embedding in the website?
Okay, so while the authoring part will be embedding in the website, we have to take care, like if you want to embed the authoring part in the website, then first of all, we need to make sure the application has these permissions like report.readwrite.all and workspaces.readwrite.all. And once these permission will be given, then the admin has to give the consent grant permission in the API section of the Azure portal. Once this permission will be given, then we can create a dashboard and we can edit as a dashboard in the website itself.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, what's the difference between embedded analytics software and the traditional BI software? That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So we are used to the BI software products. And then this embedded is picking up very big in the market now. It's becoming more and more popular. So how this is different? The traditional BI software is more of an independent system where we acquire data from different systems, integrate that data, and then give the insights through the BI software. Whereas embedded analytics is more, it sits within your operational system where the operational data is residing, and then it generates analytics and insights out of it. It works like a GPS, right? And it's more quicker. Whereas with BI software, you have a little bit of delay. You have to push the data to another system, etc. So that's why embedded analytics is becoming more and more popular these days because it is sitting within your operational system. Okay, I look at more questions. I would like to embed a paginated report and pass parameters using inputs on my website and not the built-in report inputs. I don't know if I understood that question. I'll read that again. I would like to embed a paginated report and pass parameters using inputs on my website and not the built-in report inputs. Garima, would you like to take that question from Brian?
Yeah, I think that is possible because in paginated reports also you will get your report ID, which you can use in your front end to get the embed code, right? So you will need to call the Power BI REST API where you will be providing these parameter, where you'll be providing the workspace ID where your paginated report resides, and your report ID, actual report ID, and you'll get the embed URL from that REST API, which you can use in your front-end code. That should work.
Okay. Another question for you, Garima. Can you access Power BI service using Service Principal? And how do I manage permissions for Service Principal with Power BI?
Actually, we cannot directly access Power BI service using Service Principal. We need to have a Power BI Pro license or Power BI Premium license to access Power BI service. And to answer your second question, we manage permission through Service Principal. For this, we don't need to have Azure AD. It will not give any impact on Azure AD. You have to set a configuration there in Power BI service itself. So if you have Power BI service account, you have to go to the admin portal there. And from there, you will have to configure in developer setting. There you have to enable the service principal. And under that service principal, you can manage your permission by creating a security group. So you need to create a security group, dedicated security group, where you will manage permission according to you. So you have to do all the configuration in admin portal of Power BI, not here in Azure AD.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, can you manage an on-premise gateway with Service Principal? No, that's not possible. If you're using analysis services, there's a way to manage the gateway. But if you're not using analysis services, managing on-premise data gateway with Service Principal is not possible. Okay, I'll keep looking. There's one more question from Brian. My goal is to hide the parameter selection from within the report. We limit users to certain data and some parameters need to be hidden to the end user of the page generated report. Do you have any documentation on how I could achieve this? Probably, Brian, we'll take a look at it, and then if you need any documentation, we'll pass it on to you, more detailed documentation. We'll keep in touch with you, Brian. And then which method is more secure for authentication, service principal or master account, master user account? Definitely service principal. So anytime service principal is the most preferred way of secure authentication. Okay, I'll keep looking.
So, Sundar, can I take this question? I mean,
Yeah,
I want
please.
to elaborate a little more
Elaborate
about
on
it.
that. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So when you use the service principal, you need to use either secret ID, client secret ID, which you'll be creating in Azure AD, or you can you have to create a certification for that. So why it is more secure? Because we are not using any Power BI credential and we are not implementing those credential in your code, right? So we are not embedding any user ID and password with the Power BI account. What we are doing here in the master user account. So master user account, you have to have one Power BI credential, which you will be using in your code, right? And that credential you will be using for all the clients, all the customers who are accessing those dashboard and reports, right? So we have to provide those credentials. So that's not the secure method of doing it. Instead, we need to use service principal. That is the more secure way.
Thanks for that answer, Karima. Another question, can we embed Power BI dashboard in SharePoint? Yes, both being the Microsoft products, they complement each other very well. So embedding Power BI in SharePoint is possible. And another question on the two servers Garima was talking about during the demo, the front end and the back end server. I have another question. Do we need two servers to embed the Power BI dashboard in the website? Soumya, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, I want to take that question. Absolutely not, because we can make use of one server as well, where we can implement the front end and back end code. Because if you take one server, then we can make we can save one EC2 or we can one cloud server, which can we can save our money as well. But sometimes some people or some company used to take two servers as well because of the port, where there may be some dilemma or there may be some confusion taking the port while taking the server. But we can take a single server where we can implement the front end and back end code as well.
Okay, thank you, Soumya. And I don't know whether we answered this question or not. I see this question. What are the permissions required for Power BI authoring console mode while embedding in the website? Soumya, would you like to take that?
Yeah, that I answered as well. So
okay, all right, yeah. So then I read that again. So you can ignore that. Okay. I'll keep looking for more questions. I don't see any more new questions. Okay, there's a question. Can you implement Power BI solution in AWS cloud? Garima, would you like to take that?
Yes, we can do that. Even we have implemented that. We were using EC2 instances for front end and back end server, and we uses all the REST APIs and Power BI service to embed those content and the server itself. So yeah, it's possible to do that.
Great question.
Soumya, you want to elaborate on this?
Yeah. Of course, I can do that. So even we have whatever we have embedded the Power BI, now it is in Azure cloud actually, where where we have written the code in front end and back end, we have taken the virtual machine. And the same thing, again, we have implemented in the AWS cloud, and we have embedded as well. So definitely we can embed the dashboard or Power BI dashboard in the website in cloud, actually, in AWS cloud. So same thing, we have to follow the same steps or same process, where we have to run the backend server, and we have to get the API, and we have to get the access token, and same token we have to, like same API URL we have to pass in the front end port, where we can render the UI, or we can render the dashboard in the UI of the front end.
Yeah, so we can say Power BI is cloud agnostic, and that's why leader in the space, right? Power BI is leader as per the Gartner quadrant.
Yes.
So those are the questions we have. We don't have any more questions. Anything else you would like to share, Garima, before we wrap up?
Yeah, actually, I've created this slide where I've used some supplementary slides as well. You can see. So we'll be sharing all these slides where you can see all those implementation, whatever we have done. So you will find all these attachment after this webinar is done. Harsha is gonna post this slide, and you can access this. So Sundar, over to you.
Okay, so those are the questions, and back to you, Tunga.
Thank you so much, Sundar. Thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Garima, for answering all the questions. Thanks, everyone, for joining this webinar. And we will be sending the webinar recording to you in a couple of days. We will also notify you on the upcoming webinars. Thanks once again for taking time to join us. Thank you so much.